So it's pretty unlikely that by this point you haven't heard of Undertale. Shortly after release of this game, it exploded. It received critical acclaim from critics and fans alike, with it amassing a sizable fan base that grew and grew and grew and grew.
The Undertale fanbase is completely out of control! Ah!
It's also not unlikely that this is you. I've heard many people complain that they've been seeing nothing but Undertale in their feeds for the past few months. On Twitter, it's Undertale. On Tumblr, it's Undertale. Facebook, it's Undertale. Everywhere you go, it's Undertale, Undertale. And not to mention being voted best game of all time. You gotta be kidding me. But hey, don't let the insane fandom get to you. I'm honestly getting really burnt out on it myself, but don't let that make you avoid the game. Undertale is a fantastic and incredibly well-written game, and you really should play it. I mean, you really should play it before you watch this video, because I'm going to spoil absolutely everything. So if you haven't beaten the game yet, I don't know why you're watching this. We all know Undertale is good, but why? Why is this game good? What is it exactly that makes this story so engaging, so emotional, and so smart? We're going to try and figure that out in this video, so let's just start by running over the game's plot. This is Undertale. The first thing we see in the game is a little bit of backstory. That music sound familiar? It should if you're a fan of the Mother games. It's very similar to the title screen theme of Mother, known as Earthbound Zero or Earthbound Beginnings in North America. It doesn't take long to figure out that there's a lot of inspiration from the Earthbound series here. In fact, the developer, Toby Fox, used to make ROM hacks for Earthbound. Anyway, the intro describes a war breaking out between monsters and humans, ending with the humans sealing the monsters away underground. We're not told why this war happened, and no one I knew who played the game had immediately wondered why it happened either. Having such an NES-style introduction, we're thrown back into the old day where backstories were brief and simple. They were just there to get the ball rolling, they didn't need to be incredibly detailed. I like to believe that it's because it's in this style that it's likely the player doesn't question why there was a war, it just resonates with us as a reason for the game to begin. Our awareness of this history without any reasoning and question has a huge payoff later in the plot. Alright, so we named the character and boom, here we are, waking up on a pile of flowers. We then meet this guy, Flowey, our best friend. No, this guy's a dick. He looks cute and he's being really friendly, but immediately something just seems off about him. It's probably the music. I mean, like, does this song make you want to trust this guy? No. Flowey even gives us a little tutorial. He explains that this heart is our soul, and we can become more strong if we get a high LV. What's LV? It stands for love. Yeah. No, this jerk tries to trick you, and his reaction is really funny if you don't follow his instructions. But then he gets impatient and decides to kill you. Oh, thank God for Goat Mom. This is Toriel. Her name's a play on the word tutorial, and she guides you through the beginning of the game. The game actually parodies how hand-holdy tutorials in games have gotten. She just does the first puzzle for you, straight up draws an arrow on the wall solving the next one for you, and she literally holds your hand and walks you through the next. I always thought that was really funny. She babies you through everything, even telling you not to attack the dummy when teaching you about the combat system. Solve your problems with words, not fists. It's like our annoying naggy mom telling us to be good, but she's so adorable, so we love her and we listen to her. Yeah, it's a frickin' dummy. It was literally made to be pummeled, but we listen to her, Goat Mom, and we talk to it. That is, unless you're a dick. You know, Undertale's intro has such a unique take on the Earthbound vision of seeing a mature world through the eyes of an innocent child. We see the influence on the child from us, the player. We don't have to start the game as an innocent child, because here, early in the game, we get a chance to disobey. Our attitude is our own in Undertale. We're not forced to be Ness or Lucas, the good-spirited youth the game tells us to be. We have the choice to refuse the friendly option and instead attack, which rewards us with what's expected from RPGs. Gaining experience and leveling up. It's Undertale that dares us to be innocent, because we have to make that choice, even if it means we're not rewarded with conventional RPG elements like leveling up. It goes against everything RPGs have taught us in the past 30 years. Kill enemies, get stronger, make the game easier. That's how it's always been, but instead we're rewarded with comedy. Defeating enemies via sparing requires talking to them, which is always comedic, and since the game's writing is absolutely superb, we often want to do it this way. This is often the mindset of a first-time player that doesn't really know much about the game, and that creates a conflict.
Do we do what we're supposed to do in RPGs?
Shouldn't I be leveling up? That's what we do in every other RPG, but I don't want to level up. It's way more fun not to. I don't want to use this lame timed attack, it's just not fun. Flirting with big blobs, now that's fun. Eventually we get to Toriel's home, which she shows you around. She shows you the bedroom and the kitchen and your room, my room. I gotta get home. I mean, this is cool and all. I appreciate you looking after me and giving me a place to settle down, but I can't stay here. This is where we start to feel conflicted. Toriel seems so lovingly and hell-bent on keeping you here. She wants the best for us. It's comedic and heartbreaking at the same time when you just repeat, "How do I leave?" in reply to every cute mom thing she has to throw at you. But then you both land on such an opposite consensus. I want to leave, and I will not let you leave. So here we have the first boss fight, and it's with what's pretty much become our mother figure. We can act in two ways, fight her like this is a normal video game, and expel a rebellious pent-up rage and don't do what mom tells us to. Or we can settle things another way. This is the first battle that it really doesn't look like you can win by doing it the fun way, by talking and having a comedic situation that you spare the enemy in. But you can spare her, it's just that you have to be absolutely relentless about it. You have to really drill it into her head that you want to spare her, clicking it again and again and again, even though it really doesn't look like it's having any effect. We aren't simply given the option to be good here. We have to go so far out of our way to be good. And only because of that is it truly an act of good, because it's not convenient, because we're doing what we think is right, even though it requires working for it, even though it requires doing something that doesn't seem like we're going to win by doing it. So many games just give you the option of doing what you think is right, but so little make you work for it. So little games have an attitude that if you really are the good guy, you'll be patient and relentless enough to drive the long way home. Infamous is the perfect example of a similar morality not done nearly as well. They always want the evil option to be the more convenient one, but the good option is never really enough of an inconvenience to make being the good guy that much harder than being the bad guy. Undertale understands this and gets it right. So we're done with Toriel. Kill her, spare her, either way. She warned us of the awful outside world. She told us how dangerous it is, how terrible it is, and how we'll never fit in. She couldn't have been more wrong. The outside world is sick. We got skeletons telling jokes, we got Christmas presents, grill bees, libraries, fun stuff all around. We love it. We freaking love this place. We're greeted by Sans, who is like immediately the most likable character in the game. And then we see Papyrus, who is like immediately the most likable character in the game. These two bozos are hilarious, and even though they're technically the bad guys, you can't help but to love them. Now, it's not hard to make a villain lovable. Like, literally all you have to do is make them funny and bam, likable villain. But villains like these always have some sort of despicable trait or motive that makes you not want to like them in the end. Papyrus, on the other hand, he's only the antagonist due to circumstance. And as you know, in order for the monsters to break the barrier and reach the surface, they need human souls, you being the final one. So it's really for the better of the monster race, and it's not because he's evil or anything. In fact, he's so kind-hearted that he ends up being friends with you. That is, if that's what you worked for. If you decide not to attack him, if you decide to go ahead and do the side quest where you go to his house and hang out. And this side quest is crazy funny. Papyrus has something that's actually funny to say about everything in his house. The writing is so consistently good. It's astounding, really. Now, this experience with the first main antagonist plants the seed of expectation. At this point, you're probably thinking, okay, I get the game by now. I'm gonna be able to become friends with these so-called villains and have a good time. You know, that's how I'm gonna be able to beat the game without killing anybody, because that's how Undertale is marketed, as the friendly RPG where no one has to die. And now, it's time to make the player struggle to make that seed sprout. Jesus, this one really wants us dead, like really dead. Unlike Papyrus, who tries to stop you with wit and whack, Undyne is here to impale you and tear the soul right out of your tiny human body. Though you're also accompanied with a monster child who's constantly trying to tell you how awesome Undyne is, how badass she is. On the journey through Waterfall, you become close friends with the monster child, all the while trying to avoid being hunted and killed by Undyne. There's even moments where the child sides with you when you find out that you're the one Undyne is trying to hunt. And then, the confrontation. There's a lot of character development during this fight. You find out why she's so hell-bent on killing you and how it's really for the better of her people. And after growing to love the monsters from Chapter 1, it's really easy for you to understand her plight. So what do? Kill her? No, you can't do that, and she's not gonna let you spare her either, so I guess you're running away. And then you find yourself in a situation where you can save her from dying. But why would you do that? She was trying to kill you! Well, I'm kind of a nice guy, and I'm not gonna leave her to die there, dude. The predicament they're in really makes you empathetic, even if they need to kill you in order to solve it. And this sparks the idea of, maybe there's another way. Or at least, I'll leave, and you guys can kill the next human that falls down here, and not kill me. Either way, it begs the question, is there a way to solve the problems of the monsters while, not dying? This one's easily the most outrageous chapter in the game. As you walk through Hotland, your phone will be constantly blowing up with Alphys' status updates about anime and other nerdy stuff. And then at the same time, Turbo Deadly Metaton, the robot, is coming after you in a way that combines a hilarity of Papyrus's dumb and elaborate traps and puzzles with Undyne's hell-bent desire to destroy you. I often forget how much I really love Metaton, and that's because the fandom won't let me picture him as this, but instead only makes me picture him as this, even though he's only this for like a minute in the game. But yeah, assuming you've played the game, I don't really need to regurgitate the entire chapter for you. What's important is that it makes you laugh, and in turn, it makes you really love these characters and the world they live in. And now comes the time for you to fight for your right to leave it. It's finally time for the big showdown with the king of the underworld, Asgore. The entire way here, I was always wondering what he looked like. He's supposed to be this big, terrifying dude, but at the same time, people are always telling me that he's a big teddy bear.
As you roam through his house, which looks identical to Toriel's house, you'll constantly get into random encounters. But this time, the monsters aren't here to fight. Instead, they're here to tell you a story. The story of Asgore and Toriel's child named Asriel. After the war between the monsters and the humans, Asriel found a human child who had fallen down into the ruins. They grew to become the best of friends so close they were almost like siblings. As time passed, the human fell ill and then died. Asriel wanted to bring the human back to the surface to give him a proper burial or memorial or whatever, but when he got there, all the humans were there, and all they saw was a monster carrying the body of a dead human child. So the humans kill Asriel. And this sparks a strong tension and hatred between the monsters and humans. So, now do you remember the very beginning when the backstory was presented in such a classic way that didn't make you think much of it? This is the payoff. After hearing this story, it really reiterates to you the struggle between these two races, and having this story being so close to the end of the game makes it so powerful. I'd argue it wouldn't be nearly as powerful if the introduction had already made this feeling concrete. It's emotionally elaborating on something that we already consumed but just didn't properly digest yet. And after you realize what it was you ate, kinda gives you a little bit of a stomachache. So anyway, on the way up to Asgore, we bump into our old pal Sans, and he hits us with some pretty hard info. It turns out that EXP stands for execution points, and LV, or love, stands for level of violence. So now, depending on whether or not you chose to slay monsters, you might be feeling pretty awful about yourself. But after being judged by our good friend Sans, he feels that deep inside we're good-natured and, we're not really evil and going to kill everyone or anything like that. So we meet with this Asgore character, finally, and he's either completely what you expected or not at all what you expected. Either way, he's this big friendly fella who politely greets you with a smile. But it's awkward because he knows he's gonna kill you, you know he's gonna kill you, and neither of you want him to kill you. But that's what he's gonna do, and neither of you are gonna stop him from doing it. I always found it really unsettling how he tries to tell you to think of it like a trip to the dentist. It's painful, but you gotta do it, and it's really for the better. But the dentist doesn't kill me, dude. But here we are, the epic final showdown. We know by now that there's gotta be a way to beat him without... Oh. Like Flowey told us in the very beginning, it's kill or be killed. And that finally applies. But now, once you beat him, you get the option. That smile he shoots you if you choose to attack is really creepy. Either way, you know what happens. Flowey, that little shit, he comes and destroys Asgore's soul so you can't break the barrier, and then he crashes the game. Okay, that was weird. Let's open the game again. And then the game starts glitching out. And this really scared me. Like, games glitching out in terrifying ways freaks me the hell out. But not only that, but it's a conscious reminder that we are playing a video game. More on that later. So we start the final battle with Flowey, and this scared the shit out of me when I first saw it. Something like this, being made out of photorealistic assets in an entirely otherwise pixelated and 8-bit game, it really caught me off guard. It's like when Courage the Cowardly Dog would cut to something that's in a completely different art style. It has shock value, not just because it's scary, but because it's also in a radically different art style. You can't beat Flowey alone. In fact, the souls of the humans he absorbed somehow managed to help you out. Almost like that part in Fullmetal Alchemist where something similar happens.
I always thought it was a really nice touch that all of the attacks he uses that coincide with the souls you're trying to save represent all the different weapons you find throughout the game, as if each weapon belonged to all the 6 different humans that Asgore defeated.
This battle is crazy. With his new godlike powers, Flowey takes control of your save file. He then saves and loads the game as certain parts of the fight just to screw you up. There's even parts where he loads your save just so he can kill you over and over and over again.
So there's 2 common motifs in Undertale. First, the one I've been drilling into your head over and over, the fact that this is in fact a video game. Now, Undertale isn't the first game to do this, where it's canon to the game that the game is a game, and it's more so using the device that the game is being played on to tell the story. One Shot did a similar thing, and there's a bunch of other games that do it too. But this also works in conjunction with the secondary motif, the theme of repetition. Again, more on that later.
Once Flowey's defeated, you'll get the chance to spare or kill him. And if you want to spare him, dear God, you gotta work for it. He tells you again and again that he will not learn his lesson, that he'll do this again and again.
So here we are again, being delivered the theme of repetition.
More on that later. Alright, so we all know this is just the standard ending that we get right here. It's not even much of an ending, you just kinda leave and that's it. You don't even actually really get a real credit sequence either.
But of course, we're not done here yet. We still have those side quests we can do so we can unlock the true ending. Well, I don't even know if you'd really call them a side quest because it's kind of mandatory to get the real ending, but
I particularly love the bit in Alphys's lab. For just a little while, the game almost becomes a horror game with a very .flow feeling to it. And this here is the second time the music sounded familiar to me. Both the overworld and the battle themes in this place sample songs from Earthbound. We hear the trumpets from The Cliff That Time Forgot and the strange echoing sample from The Place.
The Amalgamate You battle in Undertale were actually a reused character design from that Earthbound Halloween ROM hack Toby made.
Anyway, I really like this part because it's where you have that big discovery of Flowey's origin, how it's really Asriel's soul injected into a flower, since plant life is different from a human or monster's body. Now keep in mind that Asriel had also absorbed the soul of the child, meaning Flowey is a manifestation of both of them combined. Flowey is a plant, so physically he represents neither side of the war, and he hates both sides because both sides screwed him over and killed him. Twice. And after doing all of this during the fight with Asgore, Flowey is once again able to assume his true physical form as Asriel after stealing not only the souls of 6 humans, but the 6 monsters as well. 6 monsters that have grown on you as good friends. And here we have the true final boss of Undertale, Asriel Dreemurr. This boss fight is really cool. Not only is it flashy and the music kicks ass, but you win by performing an action you normally do not do in battle. and that action is saving, and not in the traditional sense either. Instead of saving our game, we're saving our friends. We're using the button we've been using all along for something greater than just logging our progress, and that's cool because, again, the game is reminding us that it is a video game. Now, between this boss fight and the initial boss fight with Flowey, it does something really interesting. It plays on game mechanics regarding saving and loading. Now, Flowey would load your game to screw you over, and in doing this, the game demonizes the concept of loading, where here, during the Asriel Dreemurr boss fight, it glorifies the game mechanic of saving. Loading is bad, and saving is good. That's what the game is trying to teach us. Now, what the hell does that all mean? Keep watching and you just might find out. So, back to the boss fight, y'all know what happens. You get that one final moment with Asriel, who's like, his actual Asriel self, and it's really touching. Like, really touching. It's not like Mother 3 tier jerky, but damn, dude, it's pretty dang close. Once you're through with all of that malarkey, we get the true ending where everyone makes it to the surface, and we're all stoked. We're all pumped! Except for Sans, he kind of is just like, alright, see ya, and walks away, back in the direction we came from. That always struck me as odd, but okay. But yeah, we get this crazy, satisfying ending credit sequence. It's very reminiscent of a Super Nintendo parade ending, where it shows all the characters doing cool things, living the lives you worked really hard to earn for them. And that's the end of Undertale. It's a charming, heartwarming, and loving experience. It's something you just feel amazing after beating. Very few endings in video games make me feel as ecstatic as this one. It's a perfect ending to an awesome adventure. That's that, it's over. But you can always start over. I mean, it is just a video game after all. Flowey warns us that in doing this, we're actually undoing the ending. We're removing these characters from the perfect lives we've created for them. But it's just a game, right? Well, again, the game's constantly reminding us that it's just a game because it's canon to the game's story that these real characters are living in the world of a video game. A video game you can just reset. And now, Toby's gonna take this world we've grown to love to no end and make us murder every living thing in it. Well, not at all, actually. The game doesn't make us do anything. I mean, we don't even have to reset the game. We can just leave it at that. Leave the game satisfied. It doesn't force us to make any rash choices. So many games do that. They force you to do something awful or make you do it without knowing the consequences of your actions. This is often done to make the player think, wow, did I really do the right thing? Or, question their morality or whatever. And even when it is a choice, it's usually just as simple as yes or no. Undertale is different. Instead of making you do it, or even telling you about it, it's simply there as a possibility. And only by your conscious decision can you do it. And you have to work really hard to achieve this. The two hardest boss battles in the game are only in this route, and they are desperately trying to stop you from what you're doing. In the end, you get a result that sucks. Like, why'd you do it? Unlike something like Spec Ops: The Line or any other video game where you have to make the awful decision, or the awful decision is merely done by pressing one button instead of the other. It's like watching a movie. You don't have any real influence over the story. Sure, you push the analog stick forward and the characters got to that point because of you, but there was no crossroads. There was no other possibilities. No, that's not the case here. This time, you actually didn't have to do it, and the opportunity wasn't even given to you. You worked long and hard to make this happen. You had so many chances to turn yourself around to. Instead of being given the option to do a bad thing, you're given the option to stop, and you ignore it each and every time. You do this until you get to the point of no return. That's right. I'm talking the fight with Sans. Little did you know, he is the most powerful being in the underground, and he messes you up instantly. So, you reload your save, and you come back. But then he says something a little unsettling. Something about Sans always just seemed off. You can never lay your finger on it, but it feels like there's a lot more to him than he's letting you in on. From the talk you have at Grillby's to the dinner you share together, he comes off as old and wise, like he's seen absolutely everything there is to see. Every time you die, he remembers. In fact,
he's completely aware of you reloading your save file. In fact, reloading your save file is canon to the game. Each time you reload it, you're actually rewinding time, undoing things that have actually happened. And Sans, he's aware of it. He's Groundhog Day's Bill Murray or Higarashi's Rika Furude. His monologue during this fight is absolutely heart-shattering. Can you even imagine how it'd feel to be Sans, knowing that no matter what happens, no matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, it'll all just reset eventually? That's why he didn't seem very thrilled when he got to the surface. That's why Flowey begged you not to reset everything, because it's canon to the game's story. It's more than just reloading a save or starting a new game. You're undoing all of the great things you did for these characters. And this is what makes Undertale so clever, working the save function into the game's plot. This story couldn't work as a book or a movie or a TV show, only as a game in which you alone have the ability to undo everything and have the characters be aware of that. This is something I don't think a game has ever done before. Well, at least to the best of my knowledge. And the worst part is, following through with this ending permanently dicks over your save file. Finally winning this tough as nails fight against Sans should feel rewarding. But it doesn't. You finish the game with the weight of destroying everything you love on your shoulders. And for what? Just so you could see what happened? Just to see that light at the end of this tunnel? Well, guess what? There is no light. And this tunnel never ends. Booting up the game after this just greets you with a black screen. No, it can't end like this. There has to be something I can do. Something I can do to bring it all back. Something to start a new game again. Well, you're in luck, because if you wait long enough, you start to hear a voice.
You want to go back to the world you destroyed? It was you who pushed everything to its edge. It was you who led the world to its destruction. But you cannot accept it. You think you are above consequences. I'll bring it all back. Just give me your soul.
This is the only way to bring it all back, by selling your soul to the human that ruined everything. This means you're no longer Frisk, you're no longer a loving child. You're a hateful human being on the inside, no matter what you make the character do from this point onwards. But despite this, you try for the good ending again, right? Well, guess what? You're not Frisk anymore. You were only pretending to be nice to everyone. You're still rotten on the inside, and you're still going to kill them. Getting the bad ending ends your happily ever after forever, but you could always just settle for a fake one. And that is the bittersweet ending to Undertale. So you choose it. It doesn't have to be that way, it really doesn't. There's absolutely nothing egging you on to do that. There isn't even any achievements in the game. There's no list of something telling you that you've missed game content. The only thing that could make you want to desire taking that path is curiosity. You could say that curiosity kills the cat, but in this case, curiosity kills everything. But what really ties this game together so well is the incredible attention to detail. From the Santa Claus costume in Asgore's closet to the joke book in Toriel's room, this entire world is all linked together by dialogues and interactable objects that create a coherent and interesting world. There's also a lot of upsetting things brought to light. The tragic backstory between Asriel and the human, and Alphys's failed attempts at bringing them back to life. There's a crazy amount of lore in this game, and it's all so easy to uncover. All you have to do is pay attention as you look around the environment. It's impressive the amount of things you can learn about this game's world just by interacting with your surroundings, including things you might not have wanted to learn. I guess you can say that the devil is in the details. And I guess that's all I have to say about Undertale. Though this is just my interpretation of it. I'm sure there's endless ways of arguing how it's well written and smart, but thanks for listening to me ramble on about it. Undertale definitely is something special. There's loads of things I didn't talk about though, probably the most noteworthy being W.D. Gaster. But there's tons of videos out there that digest this game's lore, and I just wanted a chance to glaze over the game's general plot and try to appreciate just why it's so powerful. Besides, I'm not really one to obsess over a single game for a long time. I tend to play something, enjoy it, and move on to something new. So I'm glad I finally got a chance to reminisce and thoroughly go over it before I'm completely Undertaled out.
And to be brutally honest, that actually happened a couple of months ago. I at least hope you enjoyed hearing what I had to say about this game. And with that said, I guess all there's left to say is, thanks for watching.
I thought one of the languages was Pokemon, but it was just Portuguese and Korea next to each other.